Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's November 27th, 2019. I'm over in the Western Garden plot. Dark and gloomy today, just before the big storm coming through. My goal today is to take some of our hardwood cuttings of grapevines, which I don't anticipate did very well because they were completely shaded out by the tremendous growth of the elderberry plants. This week I was able to get about 20 of the elderberry plants transplanted over into one of the living fence areas. I was able to get yesterday gooseberry plants transplanted from one of the rows here up into an area in the third food forest, which is a hedgerow next to some of the garlic and shallots permanent raised beds that I recently posted videos about. And today, one of my goals is to take and see how many of the grapevines actually survive. So those were hardwood cuttings. Now, I've had great success with hardwood cuttings with grapevines in the past. However, this year, because of the dense overgrowth of the rapidly growing elderberry plants, which I put grapevines and elderberry plants in the same 30-inch wide row, that's a mistake. The grapevines really had to crawl out from underneath it to get out into the rows, but then weeds grew up in the rows because I didn't keep this area weeded. So as a result, I don't know if I've had much success at all. I know there's a couple of grapevines that have rooted and sent out leaves and all, but it was hard to find them. Now I was able to see, it looks like there was some growth in a couple of the hardwood cuttings. So today my goal is to dig up whatever I can find along this row right here and see what success there was. And yesterday, in anticipation of this, I went ahead and took the remaining components of the large composting pile system. I took the remaining compost, used Bumblebee, the mini excavator, with the grading bucket to grab some of that compost and put it along the grapevine trellis up front. I'm not going to do anything with the other grapevine that's on the pergola until spring, or maybe later on in the winter time if things work out. But today, what I'm going to try and do is dig up some of these hardwood cuttings. We'll see if they were successful at all and get them transplanted into the compost at the base of the rest of the grapevines. Let's hope for the best. Well, I'm up here at the northern most point of the food forest. I just got done putting those transplants, those wimpy little transplants, in amongst the Concord grapes, predominantly Concord grapes along this grapevine trellis over here. Overall, I'd say that our Concord grapes have been really great producers, and most of those grape hardwood cuttings were of the Concord variety. and they really are delicious. Unfortunately, I didn't get to harvesting them because I got busy doing other things until after the birds had gotten most of the grapes. Thea was able to process, I think, 15 gallons of the grapes, so we got those in the freezer. They'll be part of our smoothies all winter long, along with all the other berry plants that we put in it. But by and large, I guess how I'm going to describe this propagation of the grapevine hardwood cuttings, which are an easy, it's a beginner level of doing hardwood cuttings. I guess I'm just going to categorize this event that I did this year as a failure. What did I do wrong? First thing I did wrong was I planted them way too close together with other really rapidly growing and developing elderberry bushes. I was surprised by the massive extent of the roots that extended and just completely occupied the space where the grapevine and mulberries were planted. So not only did it did these grapevine hardwood cuttings get completely shaded out by the rapidly developing elderberry plants, they also had to compete with the roots completely encompassing the base of the hardwood cutting as it was starting to develop. So it was way too close to a rapidly growing or developing other species such as the elderberry. That was one mistake. The other mistake was I didn't weed the area. So in the little spaces in between, weeds rapidly grew up, also competed for nutrients with the roots, and also provided some shading until the elderberry just ultimately dominated everything and shaded everything out and killed a lot of the weeds, except for the vining weeds, which were able to go out into the aisles, into the paths. So this was a failure. However, it wasn't 100% failure. There still was some roots that were on some of those grapevines. So I interplanted those in between the grapevines that are already there. Now that'll be way too dense, but if these ones do survive and they develop more root structure, possibly if I can get my butt in gear, I could start my next extending this row another 100 feet and transplant those ones into that area. If they don't develop, I'm not out anything, just a little bit of time, and this didn't really take me much time digging these ones out. The elderberries, they were a lot of work. Gooseberries, just typical amount of work, and the currants as well. So I have a lot more transplants to get out of there in the spring. I'll try selling some on Craigslist again, and maybe I'll learn how to market and be able to ship some bare root plants as well in the future. Not sure if I'll get to that for this spring, but maybe I will. So if you found this video of value, maybe you learned something from my mistakes, give us a thumbs up. If you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. I appreciate that. And by all means, folks, have a great day. Bye-bye now.